Up and on. There we are.
There you
Welcome
go.
back to another edition of the Blue. It was kind of lagging on me there.
It's all
You know
good.
how we've been. You know how we've been all week. Hi, welcome back to the Blue Review, a very special Tuesday edition. Tuesday. No baseball yesterday, so obviously we're not going to react to last night's game because there was no game. But we do have a lot to get to. Obviously, we wanted to talk about. You can see in the title, Yamamoto's got a rehab coming soon. We want to preview this Orioles series because, Greg, I think you believe, and a lot of others believe with you, these next two series may be one of the most important series of the season, record-wise, and where they might be in the standings. So we're going to be talking a lot about that and Flaherty. So stay here, stay in the chat, ask us questions. I'll put those questions on the screen. Thank you for being here. And, of course, Marcus Grant, thank you for joining us live from the – is this the NFL studios out in –
Yeah, I'm in a little I don't know what they call these things, little pods or something. So like I'm in, this will kind of be my reality now that football season's starting. So for the remainder, probably the baseball season. So now my goal is to try to find like a new pod every day to sit in.
We get different views that way. We like
it.
You
know.
Maybe next time you can just kind of walk us around NFL Network. So we can see what it's like.
Walk down the hall or something.
And talk about Yamamoto as you're walking down.
Sure, why not?
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. We never know where we're going to see Marcus. But all right, again, as we always do, from 9:30 to 9:55, we talk Dodgers. So we're going to get right into it. But before we do, I want to remind everyone that here at the Blue Review, we're presented by Los Angeles International Airport. Thank you, LAX, as you guys always say in the chat, for just changing the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving guests time. And if you want to learn more, you can check that out at flylax.com/transforminglax. All right, so where do you guys want to start? Actually, I'm going to send us over here. Let's get right into this. Basically, looking at this most recent series, who was your biggest performer? I'd say for me, it was Stone. I'm really glad that he's kind of found his groove again. He had 10 Ks that one game and then 7 just the last one. His arsenal has been absolutely amazing recently. And I saw Pepio, of course, was over on the Rays talking to his old friend Stoney. And he was really kind of just talking about how he's able to use that whole pitch just for versatility and really be getting a lot of strikeouts recently. So what have you guys been seeing from Stone? And is he going to be that solidified fourth guy? Because we know how that whole Kershaw has been going out. It's been really tough. Marcus, what are you thinking?
I mean, right now he does look like that fourth guy. Like we said yesterday, he had that speed bump sort of around the All-Star break, and we started to wonder whether or not he was going to hit that wall. And he seems to have figured something out. And the last two starts have been lights out. I mean, that game he gave them over the weekend where you mentioned he had the one home run he gave up. That was it. He had the 9 strikeouts, something like that. It was a big day for him.
10.
Yeah, it's obviously when Glasnow's healthy, he's your number one. Probably Yamamoto as your 2 once he is back. Flaherty as a 3, and I know Greg will talk about him a little bit later in the show today. Those are your top 3 for sure. I think Stone has locked himself in as the number 4, which is not bad. It gives you some flexibility about what to do with that bullpen, because I know that's the other big issue. But you're right, Parker. He has been phenomenal all year long. And now you're starting to look at that little weird spot in the middle of the season as kind of more of just a blip on the radar than anything.
Yeah, look, if he continues to pitch like the way he's been pitching down the stretch, I think he probably could be locked in the 4. I still can't imagine the Dodgers going against Kershaw as their number 4 as long as he is healthy and moving. I can't see anywhere else for him to go. So I would say, if Kershaw is healthy and pitching decently well and looking like he had been besides this last start and really just the first inning, I most likely see them going with Kershaw in that 4 spot and having Stone be his piggyback. But for the most part, Stone, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be like a battle between the two of them, who pitches better down the stretch, because that changeup has been just devastating to hitters. No one can catch up to their just swinging right through it. So it's been good. I don't know which way it's going to go right now. I think we have about a month left to figure out what that 4th starter is, but my gut is telling me Kershaw gets that 4th starter.
I mean, it really could go either way. Like you said, you got to see how things end up turning out towards the end of the season. But the mainstays, Yamamoto obviously being one of them. He's starting his rehab this week, as we've heard from Roberts and a lot of the media. What are your realistic expectations for Yamamoto coming right back? I mean, is he immediately, because we're still kind of waiting on Glasnow, let him get his rest. And we're going to talk about Flaherty in just a sec. I know you guys have a lot on Jack, but Yamamoto, quickly, before we'll react more later when he actually has his rehab assignment. Greg, what is your realistic expectations like the moment he comes back?
A realistic expectation is a no-hitter for the first 3 starts he comes out. I think that's what I really feel that he'll. No, I mean, honestly, look, you just want him to come out. It's the beginning of the season all over again. You want him to go out there in his first start and see after his rehab, like, and all that. You just want to hear the next day, I'm feeling great. Everything is good. The pitch, I feel good throwing the ball. There's no injuries left. It's just really being healthy getting into the postseason, because Yamamoto, I think we've talked about it enough times at this point, Marcus. Yamamoto being your number 2 starter makes a massive difference about how this postseason is going to go, because he is legitimately a guy that can get you into the 7th, 8th innings every once in a while, that it can give you length, give you strikeouts, just keep hitters off balance. They really haven't seen him all year now too. So if you can get a good start from Yamamoto, you feel really good about the starting rotation.
No, you absolutely do. And we have seen, at least the peak for Yamamoto that we've seen in a Dodger uniform was that start he had at Yankee Stadium, where he was just phenomenal. And, that was a series, even for as early in the year as it was, it had a playoff atmosphere against a team that there's certainly a chance that the Dodgers and Yankees could run into each other in a World Series, but there it was on a huge stage with everybody watching in Yankee Stadium. I mean, he was as good as you could have asked for. And so, to hope that at some point, maybe not the first start out, but, as he sort of ramps back up into the actual game speed, that we start to get that Yamamoto just in time for the playoffs. That does lock it down. Now, reading about Glass now that they're taking it slow with him. I mean, I guess the good news is he will be back, but now it's just more of a September thing as opposed to, I guess I say that September is just a few days away, right? So we're almost there. But that Glass now Yamamoto 1-2 punch, it was great at the beginning of the season. And if you have it just in time for October, the potential for it to be great again is right there.
Yeah, so we talk so much about this starting rotation, and it's tough because I don't think we've ever seen it really full. We talked about it doing that well. So at the beginning of the season, you had that 1-2 punch of Glasnow and Yamamoto, but Glasnow hasn't even been that good throughout the season. He had good starts, but he gives up home runs, he gives up hits, he's giving up three or four earned runs, and when you kind of expect him to be the guy that gives up 1 to 2, so and he's injured again on the injured list. So we haven't actually seen this rotation full all season long. So to still have the best record in baseball is very shocking, to say the least. But if you can have these guys all fully healthy by that point, I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Like Yamamoto, if he comes back healthy, maybe he's the one. I don't think there's any straight spot that's out there right now. I think we all want it to be Glasnow, Yamamoto, Flaherty, Stone, or Kershaw, or whatever it happens to be. But it very well could be like Yamamoto, Stone, Flaherty, Glasnow, or Glasnow, Flaherty in those, because just on who's playing better at the time. It's just a very volatile starting rotation right now, and it's really based on hope, and that's interesting.
Yeah, hope is not a strategy. Right?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
That's the thing. I mean, we're just sort of looking at this thing and we're kind of projecting and we're forecasting, and on top of it being, on top of these guys getting healthy, we also need them to pitch the way they pitched previously. I think here's the thing, Greg. I think some of the anxiety about this is that these guys aren't here as the division lead is getting tighter, right? As we're coming through, like, it would be great to go through this week knowing that you have Glasnow and Yamamoto on deck potentially for a couple of these games, because these are going to be important games. Instead, we're trying to figure out how they can cobble through and get through a week, knowing that you're going to have probably 2 Flaherty starts in here, which seems okay. You got to see what you can get out of maybe another Bobby Miller start if he can double up with what he did the last time. If Walker Buehler can give you anything at all, which version of Kershaw you're going to see this week. I mean, so there's sort of just some, I think, anxiety with that, because there's a lot of unknown, where I think we would all feel a lot better knowing that at least once in this turn that you're giving the ball to Tyler Glasnow, you're giving it to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and feeling that you can get 6, maybe 7 solid innings out of those guys.
Yeah, no, God, they would really be helpful this week, wouldn't they? Having those two would have made such a difference. Now, I mean, so let's get kind of into the Flaherty portion, because if you look at what this series is against the Orioles, you're going Flaherty, Buehler, and then Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller had a great start his last time out, so hopefully he can build upon that. But we haven't really seen anything out of Buehler, and I've spent a lot of time on how we each feel about Buehler, and I've kind of put where I feel about him overall. It's really about the Jack Flaherty portion of it and what you're going to get out of Jack Flaherty tonight. That's really going to set the tone for this series against the Orioles, because like if he is what he has been with the Dodgers so far in his 4 starts, he's had his last start was pretty good, almost got to 6, only gave up a couple of hits, and only 1 earned run, but with 2 runs came across. But that was kind of the first inning, the first outing, and this last outing were kind of the bookends of like decent to good starts, and the middle 2 were just like okay. They weren't the Jack Flaherty starts that we were kind of getting into. The thing for me is he came in with only 19 walks on the season. He's walking a bunch of dudes now. He already has 5 in the 4 games that he's pitched for the Dodgers. So he's just not. The pitch count's up really high, putting guys on base. There's a lot of traffic out there. I still think he's a really good pitcher. I just not so positive on that. That's going to be what we were getting in return.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of it, right? I mean, that first start when he came out against the A's and he went, 6 shutout innings. He had that one, he had that bases loaded situation that he worked his way out of,
yeah.
and we were all like, "Welcome to LA," and it was great.
Yeah,
right. It has been a little bit up and down. I mean, we were saying before the show, the bad news is there's been a lot of traffic on the bases. The good news, if you can call it that, is that for the most part, he's worked out of it without any real major trouble. I mean, there were a few times where he was really walking a tightrope and you wondered whether or not that knockout blow was going to come, and he was somehow able to dodge it. Now, the difference being he's got to face an Oriole team that can slug. I mean, these dudes can hit pretty much up and down the lineup. So it's the kind of thing where you find yourself with a lot of traffic on the bases, or if you find yourself in a second and third or bases loaded situation with less than 2 outs, there's the real potential for danger right there. So it's very curious to see how he works out of it. And I know you and I were talking about, how much length he was giving this team, but you go back through his game logs and it sort of seems like, the 5 2/3, these 6 innings that he's been giving the Dodgers, that's kind of been par for the course. It's very rare this season that he has pitched into the 7th inning. So, maybe the length that we were sort of hoping for, maybe that was always an illusion with Flaherty, but I think as long as he can get you 6, and keep the scoring to a minimum, I think that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. He never has pitched 7 innings this entire year. He's gone 6 2/3 a couple of times, but also like as the season went on in March, April, and May, he was going 6 innings consistently, always into the 6th inning. And then ever since June, it was 5 2/3, 5 2/3. He did hit 6 a couple of times, but it's always at that spot now. So I guess that is just what you expect. So, I mean, this was. Again, I'm not, I like Jack Flaherty. I think he's going to be a good starter for us. And he really will help because he has so much power and be able to just blow guys away in the postseason. But the fact is, he did this last year where he was just kind of okay. And then he went over to the Orioles and he was just really, really, really bad. And now he's kind of he's not bad by any means, but I just wonder if that's just the type of pitcher he is, that he is a 5-inning pitcher. And that's just we have to expect out of him. So I was hoping more for like a 6-7 inning pitcher.
I mean, I think everybody was. Although, I mean, it's funny you say this, and maybe this is the state of baseball, right? Like, he's a 5-inning pitcher, and I'm like, yeah, I guess he's just a pitcher. I mean, that's kind of how things are now. That if you get 5 innings out of a guy, great. If you get more than that, then outstanding. If you somehow get 7 or 8 out of a guy, that's phenomenal. So, yeah, I mean, I think we were all sort of hoping that, having Flaherty comes in means you have like 3 guys that could get you into the 7th inning easily with, Glasnow and Yamamoto. Apparently that's not going to be the case, which, again,
it's fine.
It's fine. But then, I mean, I guess this opens up the question, right? Does this mean that he is for sure your number 3 starter if Gavin Stone continues to pitch the way he has?
So it's a great question because I was thinking I was going to the same place. So basically, Stone has consistently pitched into the 6th and 7th. Like that's what he did for the most part. His last 2 starts, Gavin Stone's last 2 starts, he's gone 7-7. So he did have those, obviously that rough stretch where it was about a month and a half where he just was giving up hits and was struggling a little bit. The league figured him out a little bit, but he seems to have found that. So maybe Stone can be that 3. And Flaherty can be that 4. I mean, what happens with Kershaw at that point is really what it comes down to. I still, just because of how the Dodgers are and they love legacy, I don't see how Clayton Kershaw doesn't work into that playoff rotation. I mean, maybe it could be the 5th starter. You don't really have 5 starters in the postseason, but I mean, because you want to get back to Yamamoto or you want to get back to Glasnow. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting on the way they go. I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? You want to have too many guys that are good, except that we're going to second guess you every single time. If there's a bad outing from Stone in the postseason, why were you going with the 2nd-year guy that everybody figured out? You should have gone with Kershaw. That's what you're going to hear.
Yeah, I mean, in that respect, if you're Dave Roberts, if you're Friedman, like it's kind of a no-win situation. It's not a no-win situation. You win and then you win, right? But if you lose, then it's going to be, all hell breaks loose and everybody's going to second guess it. So, I mean, we will see. But you're right. There are a lot of chess pieces. There are a lot of cards that they can play here. How many other cliches can I come up with? But you can sort of mix and match and figure it out. Obviously, it seems like when everybody's healthy, the top 2 spots are locked down. We know that for sure. It's that 3rd starter, that potential 4th starter, where you start to kind of have to figure out what you want to do. And I do wonder how much of it will have to do with matchups, the team that they are facing on the other side, right? If you have a team, that has a lot of left-handed hitters or some left-handed power, then that certainly maybe moves Kershaw up a little bit. If not, then you're kind of deciding between Flaherty and Stone about what to do.
It's fair. What you got, Parker?
Well, no, I really like that last take, Marcus, about just matchup wise, because the Dodgers are really going to be digging into the numbers. We know they will in the playoffs. But wild cards, not playoff wise, but wild cards in the bullpen could potentially be nearing soon. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. Obviously, we know that Brusdar wasn't going to be out for season once we heard Doc say he would be out for season. So we may be getting him back sooner than we
Is Shohei
thought.
starting today? That's all I want to know. Is Shohei starting today?
No,
Is he
right.
fine? Doc said that he was fine, so I'm still worried.
We need to know.
Yeah.
And then the other wild card that I saw and I was reading about was the Gonsolin news about how it's not out of the realm of him being a reliever. So, Greg, I know that, we're big on Big Cat. We love him over here on the Blue Review. If he could be that long reliever role that the chat is always asking about, who will it be? Are you more alongside the lines of I want him to be that, or would you prefer it still to be one of the younger guys like Knack?
I mean, we need to see him. We need to see him actually pitch in some regular season games before just being like, okay, Gonsolin's now the guy in the postseason. He has to come up. He has to come up sooner rather than later and really start giving you some of that length. If Kershaw goes 3, I want to see Gonsolin come in at some point and give you 3 innings also and be shut down like he can be. He's also a guy that pitches the contact, so he can very much give it up at any time. But I can't go with Gonsolin right now until I've actually seen him on the field healthy. We can talk about it, but there's other guys that I could see being long relievers. And it really, honestly, it could be Stone. It could be Wrobleski. It could be someone along those lines because it's not going to be Kershaw. I think I can say that with all certainty. Kershaw is not going to be a long reliever out of the bullpen. So if they have to make decisions, that's going to be somebody where like Stone, as much as we want him in the starting rotation, if they have their top 3 and they're all the Flaherty, Glasnow, and Yamamoto, they could use Stone out of the pen. But either way, it just really depends for me. I need to see him.
Do you think they even ask Kershaw, or is it just assumed that he's just not going to the pen? Is that a conversation that the front office has with him to see if he's willing to even make that sacrifice?
I mean, I'm sure they will have conversations with him, but like, do you think that you can see Clayton Kershaw out of the pen every time? We've seen Clayton Kershaw out of the pen plenty of times, and it's been a mixed bag. It's not a great place to be. I just always go back to 2019 against the Nationals and be like, Juan Soto and Rendon back to back was just too much for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're probably right. I just, I'm just curious about whether they, because I think at this point you have conversations with everybody, right? Like you're asking people what you're comfortable with, what you're willing to do. And I think it becomes an issue of like who's willing to, who's willing to sort of make moves around, right? I mean, if you're in Stone and they say, hey, we want to move you to the pin because we're giving a start to Clayton Kershaw. How do you say no to that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you're not gonna be the rookie and say, hell no, I'm starting over this, longtime Hall of Famer veteran that has been the face of the franchise forever. Like, I think that's a conversation that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, that's just how I feel about it, Parker. I can't see Kershaw coming out of the pen in any sense.
No, totally. I mean, we talk about it all the time. This whole Blue Review, year, we've talked about the legacy plays and the things that the Dodgers really value. So I completely agree with both of you. But when it comes to the Gonsolin, I mean, I get that I read and Doc said the door is slightly open, but of course, it's one of those things. He's less than 12 months. I think it's only been just shy of 12 months since his Tommy John. If his next few it's not simulated innings, but he's just throwing in front of Dodgers personnel. If they go well, then he will get a rehab assignment so we can get a little better view. But, just wanted to toss that out there because if you do get Star and Gonsolin and you have more options, then that's great because we know that the bullpen has just been, granted, they've had a top 5 ERA somehow this whole season, but it's been an interesting roller coaster. So if you get extra options, that's possibly the best news you can get as a Dodgers fan.
I think all bullpens are completely volatile, and that any bullpen that you say is absolutely amazing is going to get lit up in the playoffs. That's just kind of how it goes. I know San Diego has a really, really good pen. I don't know if that you can trust that in the postseason. It's so volatile. It's going to be somebody that you're like, oh, dude, that guy's Ryan Brazier could be the best player out of the pen when it gets to the postseason. You just don't know how it is. I actually like the pen. I mean, I know they go on Saturday, They kind of blew up a little bit, but I actually really like what they have going on there. I think they have a good mix of different styles of arms. So I think that can actually do pretty well in the postseason. I just need Kopech as the closer and have him in that role. I need Phillips in the fireman role, Ryan Brazier being the 7th inning guy, and then you can mix and match with Trinan, Hudson, Kelly when you need to. There's enough names out there, and even Gratterall could even figure into that at some point if he comes back and he pitches well. So I think there's good everywhere. We're just kind of nitpicking right now because this week could really change everything, which is wild to say, but it's all over the place.
Well, I think, if we want to talk about it too, like real quick, I think so much of the bullpen in the playoffs also is dependent on the starting pitching, right? If you're not having guys give you any kind of link, if you're having major league hitters see the same pitcher 3 times in the space of 5 days, it's going to be hard for that pitcher to be effective because at this point not only have you seen everything, but probably by the 3rd time around, whoever's throwing has less velocity, less movement. It's just a lot more hittable at that point.
Yeah, and thank you to BC, by the way, in the chat for reminding us that Hader gave up a walk-off to the Phillies yesterday. Yep. So volatile. You never know what's going to happen in the postseason. And when the environments are like that, you just never know. We know how it is as, Dodger fans the last couple of years. But Greg, you mentioned before the episode, and I think we maybe touched on it a little bit, these next 2 series could really make the biggest difference in the season. I'll let you kind of close out with that, and then we'll head off to Trav and sleep.
So right now, the Dodgers have the best record in baseball because they have a 78-53 record. The Diamondbacks let's just start with the Orioles. They're 76-56. Then you play the Diamondbacks for 4, which is that weird turnaround where it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And it's the Diamondbacks are 75-56. And right behind the Diamondbacks, the Padres are 75-58. So this week, if you have a bad week, which happens in baseball, just anytime you could very well have a bad week, you could potentially be in 3rd place in the West by coming back here on Tuesday. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to stay in 1st place. They're going to win enough games to be there, but it's all very possible. These next 2 series mean so much going into September. So you have to have good starters out there. This is kind of why I didn't want Buehler back anymore. I did not want Buehler facing a massive lineup in the Baltimore Orioles, but still he has to come out. He has to prove what he has. And otherwise, we'll see what it's like starting tomorrow. Flaherty has to get it done tonight. That's all I got to say about that.
For sure.
Hey, well, you heard Greg. You know what that means? It's going to be intense. We're going to be watching the standings, and we're going to be reacting here on the Blue Review every day, 9:30 to 9:55. So be in here. Be in the chat because this is getting exciting. Baseball season's getting to the crazy point. We're nearing the playoffs. So thank you for being here today. Thank you, Marcus Grant. Thank you, Greg Bergman. Thank you, LAX. I'm Parker Bell for the Blue Review. We will be back tomorrow. I won't be here, but producer DeAndre, I think, will be running things for you guys, and Greg and Marcus will be here, of course. So we'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you very much. I'm trying to fifind the song. Here it is.
There it is.